Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. Navigating today's real estate market can be tricky. Want to buy or sell a house, finance or insure a house, or stuck with a house and don't know what to do? Florida Talk Real Estate has been your local one-stop real estate shop since 2012. Get the advice you need from your local real estate pros. Here are your hosts, Jim DePola and Johnny C. Live on Real Radio.
Good Saturday morning. Welcome to another edition of Florida Talk Real Estate. We are live on a Saturday. Today's the 7th of September, I believe. Yeah, feel good about that. It's awesome to have you with us. I see you out there, 92.1, 101.7. See what I did there? See you out there? You can see us in here. If you're live streaming with us, set that up every Saturday. Florida Talk Real Estate live streams on Facebook. Florida Talk Real Estate LLC on YouTube, home of a ton of informational chunk videos and a live stream on a Saturday. You're welcome to join in. Good morning if you are out the gates. And of course, you're welcome to be a part of the program interactively. Questions, comments, concerns in the world of real estate, dial us up, 877-927-6969. Jump into the conversation at hand. If you do that, the first voice you'll hear, the melodious tones of our producer extraordinaire, Jimothy, my brother from another mother. How you be?
I be good. Johnny, how are you today?
Happy Saturday. Good. It's nice. It's a nice day out. It's just, hey, another day. We're blessed to wake up and be able to do it again, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Oh, and by the way, we got a full slate of football all weekend, too. Yeah, Just pointing out the obvious.
Couple games already.
Couple of us like
college today.
Couple of us like football. Couple of us.
It's like 5 right now.
Yeah,
we're up to
maybe 6 at this point. Yeah. It's getting popular.
You know, it's 5. I had checked out. It's football season ended for me last weekend.
Gotcha. You're like, that's it. I'm done.
Yeah.
All right, back to 5.
But it still feels like it's popular.
Yeah,
I feel like it is.
There's a buzz.
A little bit of a buzz. Johnny C, that's me.
Maybe they should advertise on radio.
Probably.
Get some more people.
I bet you they make a few bucks one day. Let's say good morning to Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. Evidently given up on football already.
College football, absolutely.
At least college football
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah,
So
it ended last weekend.
there's still an opportunity. There's 12 teams going to make a playoff run this year. You can overcome an 0-2 start as a Seminole fan.
It'll be tough to.
Oh, it's a tough road to hoe, as they say.
That's going to be a really tough road.
Yeah.
So good luck to him.
Yeah, oh yeah, best of luck. Absolutely. And as a Gator fan, I'm hoping to get a big heaping of luck as well. Just hoping to beat Samford today.
Yeah.
what I'm saying,
We got
Ross.
a tough one next week against Memphis, so
Oh,
we'll
that's
see how that
Barbara.
one works out.
Yeah, very nice. Good to see you as always, my friend.
You too.
Pleasure to have you in the studio. And it's always nice to say good morning. I've done this for 12 plus years now. Told you that he runs a top producing Keller Williams team. That's right, our fearless leader. You'll find him at Keller Williams Innovations, the Florida Home Pros team. There's my guy, Jimmy D. Jim DePola. Jimmy D, how you be?
Hey, good morning, everybody. How are you guys doing? Happy South Florida, everybody.
I love it.
Everything going good?
Everything's pretty all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, things are going okay for me too. What was I? There was something I wanted to start off with, and I can't remember. I felt very bad for you last week about the Gators.
I mean, we got to remember, expectations have to be kept at an appropriate level. I'm all about setting them appropriately. My very first date with my wife, I was like, where's your expectation level? Because I want to make sure it's set right.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah, I
oh,
like
okay,
that.
let's bring that down.
Down here. Let's get down here.
I want to crush it tonight. And if you have it up there,
Yeah, it
I'm
ain't gonna
maybe
work.
getting a double,
It's not gonna
right?
work.
Let's bring it down. I want to at least get the triple out of this. So, yeah.
That's funny.
Just 30 more seconds, Jim, if you don't mind. Did you see somebody send around an article yesterday that said that they were toying with the idea of bringing Urban Meyers back to Florida?
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. It's like that was the headline, Urban Meyer to take over and that type of thing. And then you read the body of it, and it's all just
Gotta be
like
some murderers to
satire.
recruit out there.
Yeah, it's got to be satire. It's like, is this a Babylon Bee? What am I looking at here?
Hey, at this point, I think the alum would do just about anything to get it done.
Oh my gosh. I remember back in the day, when I was a Gator, it was Charlie Pell.
Ooh.
Remember that back in the day? I don't know if you old enough to remember that.
I know the name. Yes, of course.
Yeah, they called him Pumpkinhead because he got this gigantic head, right? Obviously, right? So they call him Pumpkinhead. And that year, I think he had 106 NCAA. One of the years that he was the coach, he had 106 NCAA violations.
Oh, that's impressive.
106,
That's
right?
impressive.
Yeah. So
NCAA.
I think they won the SEC title that year and they took it away or something, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so I remember when the Gators were really bad, like 6-4. You know those kind
last
of years.
year.
Were they last year 6-4?
5-7. I think,
Oh, really?
right?
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
I
weren't-
thought they had.
No, they're not good.
Yeah, haven't kept up with my Gators. Sorry, Gator guys. But I felt bad for Johnny. 'cause
6
I know-
wins is bowl eligible. That's what you strive for.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we get a bowl, please?
Yeah. It's nice when they were doing well, though. When the Gators do well, I'm very happy for them. It isn't I don't like the Gators.
Hey, anytime teams in the state do well, it's awesome.
That's my attitude.
whether you're a fan or
Yeah.
not.
And, you know,
I make sense for the
I'm kind of old
Panthers.
school because I always think of FSU, Miami, and UF. And as long as those three are in the one of them, it's great when all of them were. Remember the years where they're always in the top 10, all three of them in the top 10 year after year. But as long as somebody's in play in that group, I'm happy. But now, you know, USF, UCF, FAU, all those schools weren't really big when I was growing up, right? So I don't really think of them anymore as like part of the group.
Sure.
But so I'm just like an old fart now.
Well, and USF and UCF, that's a fun rivalry. The War on I-4. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
No, it's true. That's it's a good rivalry. It's,
Yep.
That's worked into a pretty fierce little rivalry there.
Golden Knights went undefeated a few years
Claimed
ago, and there was
claimed a natty.
we had some family friends that had a daughter that went there, so I kind of had a little tie there, and became a little bit of a semi UCF fan.
Sure, I think a bunch of people started sort of rooting for them. Yeah, they claimed a natty. They're like, hey, we're undefeated. Why are we not the national champs?
Exactly.
That's because you're UCF. That's
Well,
why.
division you're in. Yeah, might have something to do with
It happened last year to FSU too.
Yes, true. Well, they got left out of the kind of the equation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we do have a lot to talk about today. There's been a lot of news with the economy and what might happen with the Fed cut rate. I have some surprising prognostication on that might be against the grain of what everybody else is thinking, but might happen. So we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're also going to be talking a lot about insurance because, man, I've been hoarding some insurance stories, Ross, for waiting for you to come back so we could talk about some of this stuff. And we're also going to talk about a 95-year-old World War II war veteran who lives in a condo and his the plumbing collapsed in his unit.
Ouch.
And it's creating a big problem, and it's been a lawsuit for 2 years, and I wanted to talk about it and then see if there's any contractors out there that might want to work with me to try to help this guy out. Based on what I was reading this story, it sounds like this guy needs a lot of help, so we're going to talk about that. But before we do that, I want to talk about a different charity event. You know, Boynton Beach is all about Boynton Beach. Keller Williams is all about culture and trying to do things to help the community and help people, any way that they can. And one of our employees' wives was just diagnosed with cancer. She's in the late stages and she's going through several rounds of chemo right now. She's doing very well. She's young. And we're trying to, we're creating a charity that's going to be in the third week of September. It's going to be called a quarter auction. Have you ever attended a quarter auction before?
I don't think I've ever attended an auction.
Not even a charity. You have a charity auction and stuff like it, auctions for real estate, that kind of stuff, Russ. So a quarter auction, as I understand
I assume you just can't. Your bids only go up by a quarter, right?
Well, I guess so, but I don't know how it works. But anyway, you bring a roll of quarters, and there's a bunch of stuff that you could bid on.
And you then put certain stacks of quarters around?
Yeah, stacks of quarters. And I don't know how people win or not. I've never done it before, but the office swears that the Keller Williams Innovations office in Boynton Beach swears that this is a blast.
Cool.
And the last time we did a charity was early last year. And one of our guys, one of our agents was actually dying of cancer. He did end up eventually pass, but we ended up doing a casino night, and a couple of hundred people showed up, and it was a lot of fun. And we're expecting a couple hundred of people to show out for this. So if you want to have a lot of fun and get together with some of the people from Florida Talk Real Estate, and if I get enough people from the radio show, I'll probably buy a table so that we all can get together and be involved in the charities. Like I said, it's going to be the third week of September. I wish I could give you the date, but I don't have it yet. But if you're interested in doing something like this, it's going to be a weeknight at 7:00 at night. So it'll be after work. And it's going to be at the Marriott in Boynton Beach, the Marriott Hotel in Boynton Beach. And there'll be food and some beverages there and everything else. So if you want to do that and be involved in it, we'd love to have you. Just reach out to us and we'll put you on the list. And then if I get enough people, I'll book a table. If there are any vendors out there, businesses that want to get in front of hundreds of people to promote their business, this would be a great way to get involved in the community and promote your business. Just give me a call and I'll set it all up.
Perfect.
We're going to have Aaron Ellis.
Reach out to you on Facebook or something, or what?
Yeah, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com, Facebook, 888-973-7828, however they want to do it. But just reach out, give us a call. And then Aaron Ellis from Performance Title and Escrow, who is actually connected to Trident Title. It's one of the sister companies. Aaron's going to come on next week and discuss more detail about the charity. So keep an eye on that for next week, guys.
Cool. And
we're trying to help out somebody. So if it's going to make you feel good, come on out and do it. We'd love to have you get involved.
Very cool.
The other thing I wanted to do is talk a little bit, just a little tiny bit right now about the market changes that have happened. Man, Johnny, I was out there looking for properties. Yesterday, I was going through. Well, let me give a shout out. Shout out to Scott and Kayla. They had worked so hard. They've been talking to us for 3 years or longer. Johnny, you'll feel Scott's feelings about this. He worked like 3 years to build his credit and save the money for the down payment and closing costs so that he could afford a home.
Good for them.
He's self-employed. Really hardworking guy. Now he has 5 kids. I think when we started, he only had 3. Now he has 5. He called me up this week. We've kept in touch for years, and he's just not ready. Every time I call him, he's like, I'm not ready yet. I really want to do it. Don't have the down payment. My credit score sucks.
Well, it shows you how much they really wanted to do it. He was working towards it.
He was, and we kept calling. He kept saying, no way, Jose. No way, Jose. Not in a mean way, because he knew I wasn't pressuring him. I just wanted
ready
to be there,
Yep.
right? I just wanted to be there when he's ready. Well, he called us about 2 weeks ago. Hey, Jim, I've raised a significant amount of money. I've saved a significant amount of money. I put my credit score into the mid 700s. When I met him, he was in the 5s. So he's done good. And it's time for him to buy a house. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is going to be working on the loan. We're going to be using Ross for the insurance, I'm sure, when we get there. We're going to be going out today and looking like 8 properties today.
Nice.
Now, listen to that. 8 properties. Okay. I don't know how many times I could say that we were going out to look at 8 properties and we still had other properties we could see, but 8 is enough for one day.
Sure.
So we're going to be going out again if one of those 8 aren't it. But what I'm trying to say is choices. There are choices out there for buyers now. It isn't like you're so strapped with lack of inventory and high prices that you don't do. It was very common. You would do a search and maybe have 1 property to see or 2 properties to see.
I see 3 2s all the time, and they're all like pretty much in the same price range ish.
Mm-hmm.
I do. I see it all the time because I get the drip.
Do you notice the difference in conditions of the different houses too? Do you ever notice that?
Yeah, I mean, most of the ones I see are, at least from the pictures, they look pretty, nice. Most of the ones I see.
And that's kind of deceiving, I think, because when you get out in the field, a lot of the houses look very tired.
Well, you do want the pictures to dry out.
Well, that's what we do for a living.
Exactly.
but it has been
right
for
there.
a very long time. People would save and save and save to buy a new home, or they were selling their first time home to move up to another home, and they have in their head what they're going to get, because they're tired of their first home. Let's say somebody moving up, right, to move up to a bigger home. They're tired of the home they lived in. They've had it for a while. So now they're going to get a bigger home. And when they think bigger, they think newer too, right? Like it's going to be Mac Daddy on the inside, newer kitchen, newer floor, newer paint. But then when they get out there, based on their budget, it's very common that the houses look very tired and you still got to put a lot of elbow grease into the house.
Sure.
So that sometimes has always been a little bit of a disappointment or a surprise for buyers. But now there is a whole mix of homes. You're right. There is a lot of mix of homes. And Scott and I are going to be looking at 8 properties today. There's like 120,000 difference in price range. You can afford anywhere in there, but we're looking at the super low properties in case he finds a gem that he's just going to love at a super low price. And then we're going up to more to his closer to his upper limits of what he set, not the max upper limits, but what he thinks he can afford.
What he's comfortable with.
Right. And we do have 8 properties to go out. And let me tell you, when I was putting the search together, a lot of times besides going on showing time, which is part of the MLS system to let them know that to request a time to show the property, I usually text the agent too, because some of the agents don't respond to you. So I text them and I have this little system copy and pasting the text. And the responses I'm getting now from these agents are completely different than they were from, let's say, May.
Sure.
Here are the things. Seller totally motivated. Come on in and turn an offer. Our house is totally upgraded, blah, blah, blah.
Wow, they're greasing it, just responding to your request for
just
showing.
for a request for showing.
Wow.
I'm doing that too with to be honest with you, I'm not saying the other agents. This is just what's happening in the industry. I'm doing the same thing. When people show any kind of interest in the properties we have, I'm all over it right now because we don't have that many. So
we're talking about interested buyers.
Right,
yeah.
right.
Don't
There
have
are
that
enough
many
interested buyers for the seller.
Right.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Johnny.
Yeah.
And so right now, it is a great time to be a buyer. And if you're sitting around, felt like you've been beat up for the last 3 years because the prices are too high, the insurance is too high, the interest rates are too high, just too high, too high, too high, things are getting better. I'm not saying it's the best in the whole world. I'm never going to exaggerate to our public. We care about them too much to lie to them. I'm not going to lie just for the purpose of, trying to be a realtor. But interest rates have dropped from 7.79 in November to 6.35 as of Freddie Mac of Thursday, right? So we've gone down 1.4%, 1.45% from November. That's a big deal because we haven't talked about this very long because we haven't been able to talk about lower interest rates. But Johnny, do you remember the formula for interest rates? Every time the interest rates drop a full point, how much does your purchase power go up?
It's 10%.
Oh, you're so good, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe you remember that. Good for you, Johnny.
Yeah.
So it's 10% for every point. So right now, if somebody were buying a house in May with the same credit score, same financing, they could pay 15% more for the house, right? Or if they bought the house at the same price as that they were going to pay back in November, right? They'd be saving significantly on the mortgage payment for that same house at the same price. And buyers aren't realizing that. They just don't realize. They're waiting for the headlines to say the Fed dropped the rate.
Again,
we're going to get to that later.
They get too lost in that one number.
Exactly.
Just that one. You got to get past that number and actually see what that number means to your budget. Like they just get too fixated on the interest rate.
I'm waiting for the 3.
Yeah, it's
well, I'm waiting for that 3.
Waiting for the
not making a move.
Never happened.
I'm fossilized, waiting for the 3. So yes, you're right, Johnny. And we're going to get way more into the Fed rate today because there's some very interesting stuff I want to talk about that might be a shock to people if it happens this way. About the interest rates. The interest rates might actually go up if the Fed cuts the rate. That's right. I just said the rate might go up if the Fed cuts the rate. So if you want to go, what? How's that going to work? Stay on to the show later on, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, because they're not connected like a train.
No, they're not.
Nope.
But there's something really interesting going on with this specific decision on rate cut that really might not get the results everybody's expecting.
Yeah, because there's another one in November. So
yes,
there's another one just right behind it that And again, all the speculation is always so much fun because it's just freak out on both sides all the way up
exactly.
to it. And it always is because you have to have an article that people click through. You just have to.
Yes, exactly.
Because nobody knows anything.
So, so with the buyers, getting back to the buyers, it's really a pretty good time to be a buyer right now. You have choices,
Especially if you know your numbers.
Yeah, if
like
you're
Scott,
qualified and ready
Scott,
to go.
yes.
Scott
And his family out today.
Scott and Kayla.
They know their numbers.
Yep.
And they're out looking at 8 homes with you today. And there's more, but they're like, I think we'll look at 8 today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had 22.
And the nice thing is they know their numbers. And what's really beautiful in their scenarios, they do have this like kind of pretty good sliding scale where their max out is, where they're comfortable, and where obviously, qualifying to where you're comfortable are usually 2 different numbers. I know where we qualified as a family was a very different number from what I was comfortable with when we originally purchased.
It's true.
Yeah, they're different numbers. It's just the way it is.
But so the first preconception from buyers is they're just so beat up, they just don't even know. They're so pummeled, they just don't even know what's going on, right? But really, things are looking up for buyers. Interest rates are dropping. Sellers are motivated. So if you find the right person, there's tons of people offering the buy down on the interest rates like we're doing with our properties. There's tons of sellers willing to do that.
Well, it's because you got motivated sellers. The inventory is going up with motivated sellers. It's not going up with people that are like, well, let's just see. It's going up with people that are trying to sell their home. Like they're really wanting to sell their home. So as inventory goes up with people wanting to sell their home, man, buyers are really, if they're not getting flooded with competition, you talk about being in the catbird seat. That's pretty fantastic.
And the third part of the triple whammy that has decimated buyers is the insurance, right? Home insurance. And while we're still high comparatively to the rest of the nation, we are seeing more and more companies coming in. We're seeing prices flattening out. Would you say that, Ross, to be true, that the prices are flattening out? They might not be decreasing,
tiny bit,
but you think decreasing?
I've seen some tiny bit, some tiny decreases.
Well, we haven't heard that in a little bit.
Yeah.
So even that little crack in light of day, that helps.
Well, the pressure of all the increases, when that stops alone, is a nice whew.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next move is it starts kind of pushing down a little bit, and I'm glad that Ross is seeing it.
I can't wait. I can't wait till we get this cycle, Ross. Remember the good old days when we were all in the studio and say, "Hey, if you want to get the results of a refi without paying for all the refi costs,
totally.
Let's get you to Ross." Right? We cut out Mike. Sorry, Mike. Right? We cut out Mike because you could actually get discounts on your insurance. It's like, wow, I saved $150 a month. I saved $200 a month. Right? Just for getting your insurance redone through Ross. Then the market changed.
Not sacrificing coverage.
Oh, no.
Because you can sacrifice coverage to save money. We're talking about apples to apples kind of stuff here. Or
better.
Maybe
You were getting better back then.
Better coverage for less.
Yeah.
And I can't wait till we get to that cycle again.
Because it will happen again.
Oh, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we're not there. But that's what's good about this show, the Florida Talk Real Estate Show. It's been around for 12 years now, almost 13, is that we're actually 13. Yeah, 12. Okay, almost 13.
We're getting there.
And we tell you what's going on in the market as it's happening right now, live in the market. It kind of gives you wet your finger, stick it in the air and see which way the wind's blowing.
No, Timothy, that's not how you wet your finger.
Oh, sorry.
So
how about this?
That'll work. That'll
better?
work. Yeah. Where's his camera?
You're gonna need a napkin to
a couple and a wet wipe.
All right, hold on. I'll be right back.
So if you're even thinking about buying a home, you got to pick up the phone and give us a call at some point. We're floridatalkrealestate.com. Johnny's going to tell you in a second, but let us give you the full evaluation to find out where you are, where you need to be in order to do something that you want to do and to create the plan. Not necessarily jump in your car and do something right then. Sometimes it's like, hey, let's revisit this back in 6 months after you do this, this, and this, and we'll keep in touch with you. But we're just one phone call away of getting that information.
It is. It's real simple. You should write it down. At this point, if you've been with us, I hope you realize Florida Talk Real Estate is a .com. If you don't, well, now you know. That's right. Your one-stop real estate shop. It's floridatalkrealestate.com. Remember, we're on Facebook and YouTube as well. punching in Florida Talk Real Estate is the key. But that FloridaTalkRealEstate.com is your access to the entire team. Pros. These are experts in their field. And man, do they work cohesively together. You want to see people in different industries absolutely seamlessly working together to get what you're trying to accomplish done the right way. Watch the Florida Talk Real Estate team work. It's phenomenal. The best of the best. You get them. You can go to people that are good at what they do. Sadly, you can go to plenty of people that suck at what they do. I try to go to people that are great at what they do, and that's why giving you the roadmap, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Know it, use it, love it, share it. You can change lives by sharing. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. What are we getting into, Jimmy D?
Well,
are we doing a reset? I assume.
We'll do a reset in just a couple of seconds. So I want to just talk about one little news nugget, and then we're going to flip over. We're really going to get into what happened with the economy because it's going to be big news and it's going to affect us the rest of the year.
Okay.
But I wanted to just talk about a little news thing that happened in Fort Lauderdale. A house in Fort Lauderdale just sold for $70 million, and they're tearing it down.
A teardown.
Yeah.
Sold for $70 million.
Yeah, this is like changing.
Wow,
this is just continuing. This is just continuing the gentrification, as I've been talking about, of South Florida. We're seeing a major.
Can I interrupt, Ross? Is this the property you said I'm not paying any more than $60 million for?
Yeah, I got beat out.
You got beat out.
Yeah, sorry, Ross. Sorry, man.
Thought you had it too, but
Me too.
I did.
Me too. I was coming in cash.
Cash.
That extra $10 million got me.
So it might not. They're gonna tear down the 20,000 square foot residence to build a new building on this property. The billionaire who bought the property in 2015 paid $27.5 million for the property.
Huh.
So that means in 10 years he almost increased it by 1.5, 1 3/4 time. He increased his money in that time.
If he did nothing, that's
not
beautiful.
too shabby.
Yeah.
I guess that's why he's a billionaire, right?
That's great ROI.
So the guy did excellent on his end.
Probably just painted it.
yeah.
Probably just
fresh coat of paint.
So
gold.
So it's
Gold
going to be
plating.
interesting.
Put some linoleum down.
It's just changing the face of South Florida as these billionaires and multi-millionaires come in. I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. That's for other people to decide. I'm just reporting on the changes that are happening in our community.
Well, I mean, that footprint is what it is, right? That land there was a home there. It's probably just going to be a nicer home now. But I mean,
it'll be
newer,
more tax
nicer.
money for the residents. The people will pay more taxes. I'm sure they're going to be homesteading. I wonder what happens when you homestead a $70 million property. I wonder what happens.
Well,
You get your
right?
$50,000 exemption.
Yeah.
That probably saves like 1 month of taxes, right? The 50,000.
Month.
That's probably per
Jeez.
month what they're paying in taxes.
Oof.
I have to check that out one day. I'm going to go do a little research and on board.
it probably pays for one of the keepers for a year, like the landscapers, like one of the landscapers or something. Who knows?
It's pretty crazy seeing how the changes are going, but I would never thought that just a piece of land would be the 70 million.
How big is the land? Did you say? You talked about the square footage of
2.7 acres, so it's a pretty decent size,
Good
and
size.
it's on a corner lot. When I say corner lot, it's actually more than a quarter lot. It's like on what they call a point lot, but it's actually a double point lot. Which
water.
It almost like the piece of land sticks out, and you have all three sides of the land is yours that stick out from the water. It isn't just like one straight.
So you get like your own little peninsula. You get your own
like a
Florida.
like a little peninsula thing. So it's pretty amazing. The house
That's
right
pretty
now,
trick.
the main house has 6 bedrooms, 11 bathrooms, 7-car garage, a theater, a gym, 2 offices, a Cinderella staircase, not just any kind of staircase.
Kind of
Cinderella.
kind of what I'm looking for. I just can't be in Broward.
Yeah.
it's a little sketchy
The
down
Broward
there.
part, I'm not handling, right? 4 bedrooms, 4.5 bath, and the guest house and the grounds have
I need an in-law unit.
1,035 linear feet of waterfront. Pretty crazy.
Well, that's almost enough.
Tennis courts, plural.
No pickleball though.
It doesn't have any pickleball.
I can convert.
Has a batting cage. Has a batting cage,
All
right?
right.
And
I just go in there and I just take it on the chest like Happy Gilmore.
364 days.
That's so funny. So, pretty interesting stuff happening in the real estate market in general in Florida. Lots and lots of changes going on. Just wanted to talk about that because I thought it was a Hey Mabel thing. On the flip side, we're going to talk.
Hey Mabel. That's like again. That's that old.
What's that?
No, you've used this reference
you
before.
never heard of that before?
Yeah. Well, last time I think it was the first time you ever said it. That's like the it's like the today's headline kind of saying, right? Hey Mabel.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up. If I wish Mike was here. Mike called in. Mike called in. Quote, sick today because he just woke up late. He lazy butt.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, but I didn't care. It's okay.
I laid in bed for 20 minutes extra and went, oh man, so nice.
Oh, I don't know. I was looking.
So it's like the today's headline. Hey Mabel. It's like the hey. Did you catch this? Is that that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to look it up here.
I believe
Hold
so.
on.
Am I on the right page?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Apparently, there's some Mabel person.
But every time you say it, I'm like,
this.
Weird thing.
Like from Small Town USA, Mabel had that that town newsletter type thing that would go out.
Yeah, like a town crier kind of.
Oh, I don't know.
It's from like
they're saying it has something to do with
called,
some musical band, but that's not true.
A Hey Mabel article is as in Hey Mabel, look at this.
Yeah, like a news thing, like a news thing.
Hey, something you got to know kind of thing.
Yeah, something you got to know.
Cool.
On the flip side, we're really going to get into the economy. There's a lot of things going on. Why are we talking about economy on a Florida Talk real estate show? It's because it affects you when you're buying and selling real estate,
of course,
and it affects you with refis and HELOCs, home equity line of credits, and all of that stuff. So we're going to show what's happening right now. And let me tell you, what we're going to be talking about is a little different than what some of the national people are talking about right now. Right now, the theory is Fed cuts rate, mortgage rates drop. That might not be the case. We're going to get to it now.
All right. We got a lot to get into. Of course, you're more than welcome to join us toll free at 877-927-6969. If you dial that up, Jimothy will get you going. He'll put you on hold there. 4-minute reset. We'll get back to it. And if you're there, we'll get right to your phone call. Of course, if you're not comfortable on the radio, I totally understand. Remember, Florida Talk Real Estate is a .com. Your access to the entire team, FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. The one-stop real estate shop. It's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. Back in 4 minutes. Florida Talk Real Estate right here. It's Real Radio.
We'll be your friend. Follow us at Real Radio 92.1 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Here's what's happening with the weather on Real Radio.
From the Gordon Partners Weather Center, have you or a loved one been injured through no fault of your own? Call 561-333-3333 or go to fortheinjured.com.
I'm CBS 12 meteorologist Charlotte Carl. Almost a rinse and repeat forecast for today. High temperatures will again be seasonable in the upper 80s and low 90s. We're expecting a few scattered showers and storms in the afternoon, starting to build in around that lunchtime hour. It looks like most people, except for a few coastal communities, should see a spot of shower.
This report is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan Injury Law Firm.
I'm John Morgan of Morgan & Morgan. For over 35 years, we've grown by offering our clients more offices, more lawyers, and recovering more than $20 billion. Injured? The choice is easy. Morgan & Morgan. Visit forthepeople.com for an office near you.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house? Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com. And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because floridatalkrealestate.com has you covered. That's floridatalkrealestate.com.
This is Real Radio 92.1 and 101.7. Real talk for the Palm Beaches and the Treasure Coast. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
Yep, give it to you again, 877-927-6969. Toll free should you have a question, comment, concern in the world of real estate. You want to dive into the conversation at hand? Don't be shy. It's great to have you with us on a Saturday. Johnny C, that's me. Jimothy's our producer extraordinaire. What's up, my dude?
Hello, and a good morning. Happy Saturday.
He'll line you up if you call that toll-free number.
Keep me busy.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah, he wants to work. That's why he's here. Locker room live today, yes?
Yes.
Beautiful.
Full show, too.
You guys actually going to work a whole show?
Maybe.
All right.
Yeah, this week, but next week. No, I think next week is when we all get preempted.
Yeah, Gators next week.
No, 2 weeks.
Oh, is it 2 weeks?
2 weeks from now?
The 29th?
Okay.
Was it 7th?
21st.
I got the
21st.
schedule in the other room.
21st.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, today's the 7th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. How'd I get to the 29th? We're not going to land on a 29 on a Saturday, are we? Nope.
Or 28.
Yeah.
28.
Well, you need to learn math on the fly. Johnny C, that's Jimmy. Ross Komarinetz is with us on a Saturday with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach. What's up, Ross?
Not a whole lot. Good to see everybody.
Always good to see you, my friend. And of course, our fearless leader. 12 plus years now, almost 13. We're working there. We told you he runs the top producing Keller Williams team. Keller Williams Innovations. You find the Florida Home Pros team. And Jim DePola. Jimmy D, how you be?
I'm doing good. Everybody on Facebook and YouTube, thank you so much for checking in. Please click and like our page, subscribe our page, do whatever you do with the page thing, but please do it to let other people know we're the best kept secret about real information about what's going on in the real estate market without some kind of ulterior motive of what's going on.
Right.
We just tell you what's going on, and then you make the decisions that's best for you and your family. That's what we love. If you have questions, we'll take them live on air. Let's get right into what's going on with the national economy because, boy, a lot of things are happening. So everybody's waiting for this infamous supposed Fed cut that's supposed to happen on September 18th. Just to set the stage, I've been saying for the last 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, that I believe that a Fed cut might be coming. I even mentioned that it might even go up to 0.5 point at one point, but wasn't sure.
Yeah.
On record, Johnny and Mike were not so confident that a Fed rate because they believe that it might not be needed.
Although last week Mike was, I think he's starting to be like, all right, it looks like it's probably going to happen.
Right.
Although I'm still like standing here going, Well,
Why?
if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, we should be doing nothing at this point.
Mhm.
You leave it alone, sir.
Yep. So that's how it's all go. But the conventional wisdom, if you will, is that they are definitely going to do the cuts.
It's starting to really, really look the speculation, even the futures betters. You can bet on if the Fed is going to. Okay, so the futures wagers on whether there's going to be a Fed cut at this meeting coming up here is now 55% to the yes. So it's the favorite side that it's going to happen.
Can I get that on the Hard Rock app?
I don't know if they have that available.
Exactly.
I'm going to go look.
You
right
better
now.
hit the search feature, but you can bet that at like some offshore books.
Yes.
And if you're inclined to follow those numbers, they don't usually set those up to lose. So they believe that it's now favorable as of the reports yesterday. So last week it was 35% to the yes, there'll be a cut. This week, after the news yesterday on jobs unemployment, it's now 55% to the yes.
I'm
So
surprised it wasn't higher before the jobs report. I'm surprised it was only a third, 35%.
Yeah,
I would have expected been closer to 50 minimum, and I would have figured that it would be 55, 65% now.
Yeah, and the odds makers, the only reason they push that little extra 5% on is just because of the buzz.
Yeah,
they're like, all right, so we're gonna follow the buzz a little bit. They actually, through their what I read, the breakdown of the number, they wanted it at like 45% because of the unemployment tick down.
That's what I wanted. I'm going to talk to you about that because that was like, what the heck?
Yeah, and that's
So
why they
talk
went.
about
Well,
that a little bit.
maybe they're not gonna. So it's about a 50-50 shot, though.
So let me set the foundation with some numbers, and then we're going to talk about all this stuff. Okay. So the Fed has been raising the rates since they were worried about inflation in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, and they started raising the rates in 2022. We were at zero because of COVID.
Right.
And they raised the Fed reserve rate all the way up to 5.25, 5.25, 5.5, 5.25. They always have a range. It's always a quarter point range. But that's where we are. It's like the mid fives right now, low to mid fives, right? And the Fed has been saying that they would like to reduce the rates once the economy gets weaker because they want to avoid a recession, but they want to stomp out inflation. I'm sorry, what?
I said corrected it. Not once the economy gets weaker, if the economy gets
right.
weaker.
But well, what they were trying to do by raising the rates is make the economy weak. That's what they were trying to, and we've been very resilient.
They're trying to squash inflation.
And
what they're doing.
And the economy's been very strong. People just keep buying anyway. Yeah. And that's what they were trying to avoid. But it did seem like things, and the job market all year long, at least the jobs added all year long have been very, very strong, and some months surprisingly strong. So they couldn't whack-a-mole the inflation down because employment's been very strong, and that's one of the things that keep consumer spending going. So they've been trying to basically use a blunt instrument to reduce the economy, and the inflation has slowed down, but it's still high for the last 10 years, and they're trying to figure out how to deal with it. And then so now we're here to September. By now, Wall Street would have bet that we already had 5 rate cuts by now.
Right. Totally.
We've had 0. And now we're on the verge of maybe the first rate cut since 2022, which is going to be a big deal because that's where the Fed is going to be saying, okay, we feel that the economy is enough under control that we can start reducing the rates and see what happens then. People are really expecting to have the rate cut this week. One of the buyers I was talking to yesterday, Johnny, said to me that I've heard this a lot, that they're waiting for the Fed to cut the rates before they even start the home buying process. You shouldn't do that.
Oh, boy.
But that's what they did. And it's very common that the buyers say that now. And I said, well, he goes, yeah, because I expect them to do a 0.5 point cut because they've been reading about the 0.5 point because a lot of the experts are also predicting instead of a 1/4 point cut, they might do a more severe 0.5 point cut. And I actually said to them at the time, this was on Thursday before the job report came out or before I read it. I said, do you understand that if the Fed does cut the rate a 0.5 point, not a 1/4 point, that the interest rates might go up. Now that totally blew their mind. It's like, what?
What do you mean?
And let me tell you the theory behind this. And then I read about it in the New York Times yesterday, and I got tingles because I'm like, wow, I predicted what I read in the New York Times before I read it. So here's the thing. How could the Fed drop the Fed reserve rate and then the interest rates go up? There's basically two basic reasons for that. Number one, Johnny, you know this. The Fed rate is not a direct correlation to the mortgage rate, correct, Johnny?
Right. They're not connected like a caboose on a train.
Right, exactly. So it could go up, it could go down. But what I'm more concerned about, and I was thinking about this, if the Fed actually does a 0.5 point cut, that to me tells me that the Fed's like, uh-oh, I don't know if we missed the soft landing or not. We better do something drastic and try to get out in front of this. And if that happens, the banks might be going, uh-oh, the Fed is seeing trouble along the horizon. We don't want to drop the rates. In order to protect ourselves, we're going to raise the rates so that money isn't as risky, that we have better borrowers but paying a higher rate.
Sure.
Right? So that if something does happen, we'll be more protected. So if we do get the 0.5 point drop, there is a chance that the 6.35 Freddie Mac rate that we had this Thursday could actually go up from 6.35. Now, how much? Who knows? Nobody knows.
And again, who knows if it goes up? There's a chance.
And it could go down, and it could stay flat.
Of course,
it could stay flat.
Do nothing.
They could drop the rate 0.5 point, and everybody goes, you know what? We're keeping the interest rates at the same.
If you listen religiously, last week Mike was like, we might find out if the Fed does a rate drop that we get very little movement or no movement at all in your mortgage rates because it might already be cooked in.
Right.
It might already be in the numbers.
They already did.
Yep.
Sort of. You know, I mean, they've been lowering without the Fed having dropped.
And we could prove that 779 in November, 6.35 today.
Yep.
May of this year, 722, 635 today. Gone down. It almost went a whole point since May, right?
Right.
So that's a
with the Fed doing nothing.
With the Fed doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
So don't count on this Fed rate to be your panacea about buying a house. And even if they did cut it a half rate, and let's say there was a quarter rate drop in the mortgage rates because of that, which would be healthy. That would be a very healthy drop.
Sure would.
Right. Even if that happened, okay, it isn't going to affect your life that much as far as buying the house. You're only saving 2.5% in purchase power, as we talked about, right?
Mm-hmm.
A quarter point drop is only 2.5% purchase power. So if you could afford a $100,000 house today and they drop it a quarter rate, you could afford a $102,500 house the next day.
Right.
Right. Not a big change in your life. Right. So don't think that is reason why you should be thinking about getting into the market if you want to buy a home. You should be getting into the market because you want to buy a home.
Yep.
And you get everything planned, and then you go out to find a house that you want to buy. And you know what? You don't buy the house until you find the one you want to buy.
Yeah, so I think it's ridiculous enough to focus on your mortgage rate. What is my rate for my mortgage going to be? I am not even going to be interested in finding out if I can afford a home unless it's 5%. Or I think that's silly. That's not the number to focus on. Focusing on what the Fed rate is even more ludicrous.
Yeah, that's even crazy.
Like, it's just the craziest town you can come from. Ugh.
Yeah, you're 100% right about that, Johnny. And people have to understand what's going on with that. You need a good professional sit down and go over all this stuff with you.
You do.
One of the things
it's just not the numbers that matter. It's just not truly the numbers that matter.
There's so many other numbers that are just important.
I don't want to say they don't matter. Of course they matter. There are variables that go into what the real numbers that matter are.
It shouldn't be the be all end all. It should just be one of the main factors.
It's part of the equation. It does matter, but it's not the most important. It shouldn't be where your focus is.
Isn't the most important number your payment?
Yes.
Yes, and affordability, right?
Ross knows.
Just the payment.
Exactly.
Ross knows
exactly. That you can make that payment every single month, even if you have a little bit of a tough time. You should be buying a house that you can keep the payment going no matter what. We already went through, I don't want to open it up again, but we already know that the foreclosure rate is about 0.5% right now, So all those people thinking, oh, well, the crash is coming. Maybe it is. Who knows? But we don't see any signs of it yet.
No indicators.
No indicators at all. Zero. Nothing. Right. And then they hear, oh, I hear that the 30, 60, 90-day lates for mortgages, that's starting to come up. It might be, but they're not transferring into foreclosures. Those people that get in trouble on the mortgages, if they're really high, and I don't believe they're high, I think that's a rumor, but there's theories out there that those 30, 60, 90 late day payments are super high right now, but they're not sliding into foreclosure if they are.
Well, there's so much, everybody has so much equity.
That's what I believe, the equity, right? That's what I think is happening, that the equity that they're saying, okay, I can't afford my mortgage anymore. I'm in foreclosure, but I've got $150,000 of equity. And if I sell it and I pay off the foreclosure and I pay everything off of my mortgage, I'm still walking away with tens and tens of thousands of dollars in my pocket. And you lick your wounds and you move on from a bad economic event.
So can I think out loud real quick though? Because
depends.
Exactly. Hold on. What are we doing?
I don't know. Can you? I don't know. Can you?
Stop looking at Jimothy. So, all right. So I will tell you that if there's any facts in the increase in the 30, 60, 90-day lates that are coming up on people's mortgages, I'll tell you there's one thing that worries me, and it's faith in people. So there are moments where I'm like, oh, I'm kind of get this newfound faith in people, but they're fleeting, Ross. I don't have a ton of faith in people to make the right economic decisions. And if they're getting 30, 60, 90 days late, clearly there's some fracturing of economic decisions that are putting them behind the eight ball. The last collapse, I can remember a lot of people were ripping all their equity out of their homes and then just screw it. The bank can have it. I'll live here for free as long as I can. Like that was the game that was being played. A lot of people remember that game that was played. And with all the equity positioning that people are in right now, I hope we don't teeter into this. Well, screw it. I'm going to strip all the equity. I don't care what the interest rate is I'm refining into. I know I'm losing this house.
Right. But I mean, if
I'm going to rip all the equity out and I'm going to go into foreclosure and screw it all. When else am I going to be able to pull $200,000, $150,000 out of my house? Right. Because if I sell it, I know I can't afford it. I'm already drowning in this house. I'm just thinking out loud because of if this is where we're falling into, I think there is some danger, not as an economy, but as a lack of faith in people to make the right decisions financially, fiscally.
Well,
but I don't think they'd be able to get into that same position now just because it's so, I mean, back then you could get a loan for 110% loan to value back then, right? At the most extreme case. Like right now, if you're not an amazing borrower, I mean, you're not going to get a 95%, loan to value. I think I'm
thinking like 80.
Yeah, 80, but you're still, I mean, I think your economic decision at the end, but I mean, if you're struggling, if you're struggling now,
yeah,
you're probably not going to be able to get a refinance, right?
So I guess that's the one thing here is, are the company's going to be willing to do it just to get the business? If they're like kind of borderline, hey, you got the equity, let's do this. Because they only got to have like a 640. So maybe they were at high sevens, but they're starting to get crushed. It's coming down. They're like 680. They're still going to qualify. And again, if the mentality is, I don't really care what the rate is, because I know I'm choking on this and I'm going to lose this house. Let me just get this money. I'm just thinking out loud because, again, my faith in people. If the banks are the ones that are going to be really responsible, because the banks were very much a part of our last big.
Yeah, they were criminal enterprise.
Criminal. Yes. Well said. I didn't want to go there. Yes. But if they're going to allow the people in a way,
I don't think they are.
I think they're being much more responsible this go around.
Yeah, I don't think they are. Like, there's talk now. I haven't heard this directly, but I've heard through several other agents over the last year, plus reading about stuff that Wachovia kind of is not really trying to do home loans that much, and they haven't been for a while. They're trying to push away home loans.
Wells Fargo?
Yeah, Wells Fargo. Oh, what did I say? Wachovia. Oh my gosh, what old school. Yeah, we're talking about we're talking about foreclosure
Yeah.
prices, and
I
I'm
was gonna
thinking
say,
The
countrywide.
2005,
So I haven't
2006
heard one
Mozilla,
mortgage
movie.
guys.
the guy's
I was like, I'm
I
not
remember the
surprised they don't.
owner. I remember the guy's name now. Mozilla was the owner of Countrywide. Remember
I do
weeks
remember
ago I
that,
saw.
yeah.
I'm going back to all those old banks, Wachovia, WAMU. Remember WAMU? But anyway, Wells Fargo is kind of like not really doing home loans, and they weren't advertising it for tons of people to come in as new customers. I'm sure if you were a Wells Fargo customer and you walked in for a home loan, they'll probably work with you.
They bought ours up
Mhm.
originally and then sold ours within
Mhm.
the year. So are they just getting rid of all their holding?
We heard that they felt like there was risk coming, and that they were slowing down because they didn't want to shoulder that risk in the long run in the housing
And
market,
they're
but
not
it never
stealing from
came.
people anymore, allegedly. So
Yeah.
they're like, oh,
So, uh, so the one thing I kind of agree with Ross on the theory that you have, Johnny, is that the banks would have to be complicit with the homeowner in a way,
they would,
even though the homeowner isn't going to tell the bank, "Hey, I'm going to screw you at the end."
right?
The bank is going to have to overlook, because if you're in trouble with your finances, or you're trying to strip the equity out, and you're worried that you're not going to be able to afford the mortgage payments to strip the equity out now, well, first of all, you have to prove that you could afford the extra payment taking out the money.
True, that's true.
Right. So if you can't prove that, technically right now, I've never seen banks give you a break on that. Now there's that, not a new loan, but what do they call it, Johnny? DSCR. Mike knows what it's called.
Oh, I don't know.
DSCR loans.
Plus has Ross.
Those are like doc loans, right? Like where no doc loans, where you don't have to turn in the same kind of documents for conventional financing. And it's kind of more of a non-conventional financing, but it's not outrageously high, and the risk isn't crazy risk like back in the day, but more risky than if you were to give all the documents.
And more risky, the less favorable loan terms. You know,
Right, you're going to pay a higher
including
interest rate.
LTV,
Mhm.
you know, loan to value. So, you know, I don't.
So-
And I think that, you know, back then there was thousands, right? Thousands of those foreclosures happening. So
Oh yeah,
it was impossible to get through the court system. And I think now, you know, it would be kind of a slow drip of, you know, things like that. And I think that they would be handled in that more timely fashion, as opposed to, oh, you can live here for 2 years while we figure this out.
right.
And if
you know?
if we did have a bad run, like where we had a massive foreclosure filings like we did back then, I think the banks, God forbid we ever go through that again,
Yeah,
but
really.
I think the banks would be prepared on how to handle it better, because when we first started, everything was on fax machines.
Yeah.
And you'd have to fax, literally, I'd be faxing hundreds of pages to the bank and then wait 3 weeks for the response. We never got the documents. Then you go over there, because one time I went to one of the companies in West Palm that processed all that, and they had a fax machine room. It was a glass enclosed room where the fax was spitting out so much paper that was landing on the ground. Think about this, just that you couldn't open the door to get into the fax machine room, because the paper on the floor was so high that you couldn't push the door. It was blocking the sweep of the door to get into the
Wow.
place. And you'd have to push on the door really hard and just to get into the room. And all the documents are laying there from, who knows, hundreds of files, right? And and every time you had to send something out, you had to do this. You had to write at the top of the page, 10100, 20100, in handwriting, 30100, right? So you'd see on the fax machine floor all these documents from all these different customers just laying on the floor. And I'm like, who's going to sit there and collate all this junk, right? They don't have somebody there dealing with the fax machine while it's going.
Wow.
That's how crazy it was back then. Then it went into, they created a system called the Equator system, which was a nationalized almost computer system that allowed you electronically to process everything. So you could actually scan documents and upload them into the computer instead of doing it the other way. That way you can confirm that the stuff was sent, because you had an electronic receipt
Yeah.
from it. And so if we ever went through that again, hopefully they would learn a lot of lessons from the last time. But so I don't think that we're going to see that unless the banks start really relaxing their standards in order to get new business. I don't think that we're going to see that, Johnny. I
sure
can
hope
understand why you would be concerned about it because it's
faith in
human
people.
nature.
It's all about faith in
It's
people.
human nature.
Yeah, that's it.
I mean, I'm sure everybody has that thought and would love to do that, or there's a lot of people that would in that position that would love to do that. I just think it would be very difficult
I hope that's the case.
to accomplish it.
Yeah, I think the way it's built, you're probably right. It's kind of built to avoid that disaster again.
But I like where your faith in human beings is.
I agree with that part. Hey, we're going to go ahead and take the 10 o'clock break. And on the flip side, we are going to get into the actual jobs report that should translate into a decision that they're going to make. When's the 18th? Is that next Thursday? Next Wednesday or Thursday, if I'm not mistaken.
It's going to be like 2 weeks because the 13th is a Friday.
It'll be a week from Wednesday.
A week from Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
So this jobs report should have a big factor that came out on Thursday or Friday. This jobs report should have a big factor as to, is the Fed going to cut the rate? And if they're going to cut the rate, how much? So we're going to talk about that on the flip side.
Perfect. Lots to get into. Of course, you're more than welcome to join us. We got an hour remaining. You're welcome to be a part of the show. Questions, comments, concerns, you want to dive into the conversation at hand. We got a 4-minute break. We can get to your phone call at 877-927-6969. Of course, if you're not comfortable on the radio, believe me, I understand. One day I might be. But you can go to floridatalkrealestate.com and avoid the whole radio awkwardness. floridatalkrealestate.com. Your one-stop real estate shop. Access to the entire team. These are pros, and you get them all at floridatalkrealestate.com. Remember, they're on Facebook and YouTube, but that .com, very useful. floridatalkrealestate.com. We're back in 4 minutes. Florida Talk Real Estate. It's right here on Real Radio.
We'll be your friend. Follow us at Real Radio 92.1 on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Hey, it's your boy Johnny C here, host of Florida Talk Real Estate. They're tops when it comes to helping people buy and sell houses. But Florida Talk Real Estate is so much more than that. For 5 years, I've watched these guys help thousands of our listeners with any real estate need. They couldn't do it without their sponsors, who are experts in their fields. Check it out. Jim DePola, powered by Keller Williams Realty. Their team specializes in helping people sell their house for top dollar, and buyers get great deals on the purchase of their home. That's what they did for me and my family, and I couldn't be happier that I hired them for my real estate transaction. Mike Rauch from the mortgage firm is one of our favorite guests on the show, and he is the mortgage guy. Whether you're looking for a refi or a mortgage to purchase a new home, Mike Rauch will get you the answers you need. The mortgage firm is licensed to do loans in Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia, and they have local offices that cover all of South Florida. So if you're thinking about a refi or a new mortgage, go to the mortgage guy, Mike Rauch, and find out what he can do for you. The Mortgage Firm, Inc., NMLS 189233, Florida license MLD 78, equal housing lender. The law office of Paul A. Krasker has been specializing in real estate law for nearly 25 years and has the professional team you need. Upside down with your house, Paul's team can help you conduct short sales, loan modifications, even if you're behind on payments. They also help you with foreclosure defense and bankruptcy. They can even help you get a student loan modification and repair your credit to get the score you need. Paul's full-service team has helped thousands of our listeners, and they can help you too. Trident Title LLC is the largest privately owned title company in Florida. When you need a title company to complete a refi, home purchase, or sale, Trident Title has got you covered. Not only do they offer competitive pricing, Trident Title has attorneys on staff to make sure if you have bumps in the road declaring title that you can get the job done. Beware, not all title companies in Florida have attorneys on staff. Trident Title does and complies with all the new federal regulations released last year. Ross Komarinetz, owner of Brightway Insurance, has been helping our listeners get great rates on homeowners insurance plans. Haven't checked your homeowners insurance policy in a while? This is a great way to help reduce your monthly mortgage payment. Ross can also help with renters and auto insurance. Ross is only a phone call away and can usually get the answers you need same day.
Call Ross today at 561-425-6228 or drop by his office at 873 Donald Ross Road in Juno Beach.
So now you know why I'm happy to be part of the Florida Talk Real Estate Show, the longest running real estate show in Florida. And all these sponsors are just a phone call or a click away. Just call 888-973-7828. That's 888-973-7828. Or go to floridatalkrealestate.com. That's floridatalkrealestate.com And don't forget to use the most accurate search engine to find your new home or ask for a free home valuation because FloridaTalkRealEstate.com has you covered. That's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com.
From the Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys Studios.
Have you been in an accident? Call Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys at 1-800-747-FREE.
That's 1-800-747-3733.
Real Radio 92.1 is WZZR West Palm Beach, an iHeartRadio station.
Listen on your free iHeartRadio app for all your music, radio, and podcasts. Free never sounded so good. This is Florida Talk Real Estate with Jim DePola and Johnny C. Got a question for the show? Call us live at 1-877-927-6969.
877-927-6969. There is not an echo. Just giving it to you once again. If you want to join the program, you're more than welcome. Questions, comments, concerns you want to add to the conversation at hand, dial it up. Jimothy will answer. He'll line you up. What's up, my brother?
Hello, hello, and good morning, gentlemen.
Of course, that's our producer extraordinaire. I'm your boy, Johnny C, here, Air Traffic Control. We got Ross Komarinetz here with us in studio on a Saturday with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach, and you can see him on camera, too, if you join us on Facebook or YouTube.
Hot Ross.
Hot Ross is how he's known.
Stop
in some
playing
parts.
that, Johnny.
Yeah, Hot Ross, how he's known in some parts. What's up, Hot Ross?
Doing okay now.
You doing all right?
Yeah,
He's
doing
mad.
better earlier.
No, he's
Doing
mad.
better earlier. No. Buenos dias.
A little callback to the days of old. Yes. Did I hear that one more time? Because I think I stepped on it.
I thought that was deleted.
Hot Ross.
There he is. That's Triple H, right? Hottest out of
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, the original was.
Oh, that's a new?
This is a fairly new one.
Let me hear it one more time.
Hot Ross.
Is she on Wild 95.5?
Sure is. We've only got 2 females in the build. Well, 3. As far as on air.
Somebody had to go to that person and say, hey, can you record this for me?
Yeah, and I don't know why you keep asking her, Ross. I thought that's a pretty good version. Man.
She finally caved in.
I think that sounds great. He wants a better one for his ringtone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be awesome ringtone.
Oh, wouldn't it?
That
though?
would be awesome.
If I was in his office, I would have it as my ringtone.
I was hoping the Greek was going to do it.
And I would never have my phone on silent. And I would just be like, I would just call myself from like the landline in the office.
Hot Johnny.
No, let's say Ross.
Still say Ross.
Yeah, I still want to say Ross.
Let's say Ross. We got Jimmy D over here. Jim DePola, I've told you for 12 plus years now, runs a top producing Keller Williams team. Keller Williams Innovations. You find the Florida Home Pros team. There's Jimmy D. Jim DePola, how you be?
Hey, I'm doing good. I'll just tell you this funny name story, and then I want to get into a shout out that I forgot to do at the beginning of the show.
Well, shout out to Megan too, by the way, for the nice drop there.
Yes, thank you,
Ross.
Megan.
Can I just one more time? Can I hear one more?
What did you want to hear?
Megan.
Hot Ross.
That?
Thank you, Megan.
Okay.
So when we first started out the show, I had a business partner named Rob that was part of the team. We actually called back then Talk Real Estate with Rob and Jim.
With Rob and Jim.
Rob Egan, right? And
I got you two guys and homie the cartoon house on
homie to the
on a
rescue
cup that I drink from on the regular.
Oh yeah, I love it. And that was our
too.
our mascot, homie to the rescue.
So good.
If we ever go into a financial real estate crisis again,
yeah,
I got the homie to the rescue all lined up, and I'm going to be your homie. I'm going to rescue you. That's what I'm going to do, homie to the rescue. But what happened when we first started, we were trying to figure out the whole advertising thing because we were new agents, didn't know what the heck we were doing and everything. So Rob was doing a lot of the typical Keller Williams stuff that you have to do. And one of the things that they really drive you crazy about is that you should wear a name badge. Do you remember this? You have to wear the name badge. So, you'd buy the little name badge. It's magnetic. You put it on your shirt and it says Jim DePola, Keller Williams. So Rob was walking around with it all the time. And he used to get mad at me because I refused to wear the badge. I was like Kramer, not wearing the ribbon. Right? It's like, I'm not wearing the badge. I'm not wearing the badge no matter what. So finally.
Hates a ribbon. Oh my God.
Right.
I just saw that episode a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, I've been revisiting Seinfeld.
What do you mean you're not wearing the ribbon? So I wouldn't wear the ribbon. the name tag. So one day I had an inspired idea. So I walked up to the front desk where you order the name tag, but I filled it out, and you have to, fill out, the different boxes for each of the letters of the name so that they put it on there correctly. So I fill out the name, and the clerk looked at it to make sure it was all done correctly so she could turn it in. She goes, "Wait a second, your name's supposed to be here." And I go, "No, just leave it the way it is. That's the one I'm buying." She's like, "Okay." And I got the tag. Rob was all happy when it came in and everything, and he was waiting for me to open the box when I came in because I came in later than Rob. Nancy was there. And I opened up the box and I put my tag on, and Rob looked so mad at me, but I was so happy because the tag said, "I'm not Rob." That's all it said. "I'm not Rob." Let me tell you, that was one of the best little advertising techniques because I would wear that just to get Rob PO'd, but it worked. I would stand in grocery store lines, and then somebody would catch the tag, right? They look at my little tag on my suit or whatever, my shirt. And then they would drive, you could just see it would drive some people crazy, and they'd look. And then after that, they just kept like looking out of their side of their eyes at the tag.
Where is Rob?
Yeah. So finally, usually they would just, and I see them doing it, and I don't do anything. I had like a little script for this, right? And then I just ignore it. And I know that like 1 out of 6 people, they're so obsessive compulsive that they got to know, right? They just got to know. So they would turn to me and go, "Okay, so who are you?" Right? They wouldn't say hi or anything. They just look at me. He's like, "Okay, so who are you?" And then I'd look down at my tag, like befuddled, like, "Oh, I didn't even know that this was happening." And I go, "Oh, I have this radio show, and my business partner, Rob, wanted me to wear a name tag, and I didn't want to wear it. And they always confuse their names. Everybody calls me Rob all the time. So I figured I'd put a name tag that says I'm not Rob." And that was a great way to get into the conversation, because what would they say after you said that? "Oh, you have a radio show.
Really?
What's going on with that?" Right?
That's
And
intriguing.
then the
You're
next,
a
"Oh
radio
yeah,
guy.
we're realtors, and we got a real estate thing going," and blah blah blah. And that was my little advertising campaign. I'm not Rob.
Jim's going to the grocery store with a long list, but buying one item at a time so he can check out like
Just
12
stand in line.
times and meet 12 different people.
Exactly. Hey, I wanted to give a shout out. Do you remember we were talking about? We missed it last week. Remember we were talking about the golf course that was being built at Jonathan Dickinson Park, and the hotel that was being built, golf courses, and the Anastasia Park. They're going to put a 350-room hotel.
Yeah,
and they were going to do all this stuff, and it was really crazy, and everybody lost their religion.
Yeah.
Well, the guy that the way that we all found out that this was actually happening was a state employee,
a true hero.
James Gaddis was an
What a
employee.
He's on my Christmas card list.
He should be. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection Office of Park Planning. He was one of the guys that had to actually go through all the paperwork to figure out where to put the golf course and like how it was going to impact the area and everything.
Yeah.
And apparently, reading the Tampa Bay Times, he was not a happy camper while he was doing this for the state of Florida.
It sounds like nobody in that office was happy while it was happening.
No, you don't go work.
There's only one guy that had the balls to be like, "You know what? My job's not worth it. I'm here for a reason. This is not acceptable."
You don't work for the Department of Environmental Protection and not be unhappy with the plan that was coming out, right? I mean, if you really care about the profession you're in and everything, those people have a very high standard for what they expect to
If you're
happen.
a paycheck collector, okay. If you're there because you love what you do and you care about the environment, nobody was happy with any of that planning.
So this guy leaked the information. James Gaddis is the one that leaked the information to the media and the public. The public went nuts. They stopped it in its tracks, which I expected that to happen. That was not a surprise.
Nope.
But stopped it in its tracks. And what did he get for that? Did he get an award?
No.
Did he get a promotion? Do you think he got a promotion?
Well, actually,
what do you think he got?
He's got a pretty fat GoFundMe page going right now.
He does. But what he did get was the pink slip.
Yeah, he got fired.
He got
Although
fired.
he is getting lawyered up too.
He deserves to.
I don't. I think what he did, I think, is probably just
in the
called,
gray area.
Yeah, because he took copies. He took copies and dispersed it. Like, as much as I want to applaud this dude, and dude, you're an angel, you're a hero. Thank you. I think they probably can justify firing because he he took flash drives and stole the information.
And this is just what gets me. This is what gets me so up about
But God bless
politicians
them.
in
I mean,
general.
that's public information. Like,
Yeah.
right? Like at the end of the day, that's our
Well,
public.
what bothers me
They were all
more,
told they couldn't even talk to like their friends about this.
right?
I
What
don't know if
bothers
they
me
signed
more,
anything.
But like anything that has to do with our, I don't know. And I just feel this way in general. Like anything the government is doing
should be
Public
public.
public, no
Yeah.
matter what.
As transparent
So
as can be.
if that's happening, that should just be public information.
I'm with you.
Well,
you know,
what bothers me even more is that they're firing somebody for information that's related to using public money in public land. And so the whole idea of firing him for this, because all he did was factually report what the plans were using our state money and our public land. And the politicians feel that they have the right to hide that from us. And then somebody that breaks their rules,
keep electing them,
right? They fire them.
Yeah.
That shows almost automatic guilt. And when I say guilt, I don't mean like criminal guilt, like convicted in court guilt.
No, they
but
knew they were wrong.
guilty as public officials not doing the thing that they knew that the public was going to be upset about.
Yeah.
And they wanted to hide it until it was too late. What kind of government is that? What kind of government is that? That is just wrong on so many different levels.
It's just you have decisions
And I'm
to
so
make.
glad that people stood up and said, no,
Well,
this
one
has
guy.
to stop.
One guy.
Well, no, because the public made a big deal about it.
Oh,
and
once
then
we
the
found
whole-
out,
right?
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So,
but that was
right.
That was
But
easy.
but it needed to be re-brought to our attention because again, I think you guys even mentioned it. This was known a while ago.
2011
right. So,
is when
I mean,
they started this.
yeah.
So this is way before even the people that are in office now. It's just the mentality of politicians. I'm not getting into red and blue. I'm just not into that stuff because politicians
I just think it's the
are
government.
politicians.
Yeah,
It's
right.
the government.
It's
no
a
matter
government
who's
thing.
there, like
Yeah.
everybody wants that. They take
So-
advantage of that power and they want more.
I don't know why anybody would vote for any politician that thinks it's good to hide information from the public using state dollars and state funds and government funds. Government funds means the public should know. It's our money. We should know what's going on.
Yeah.
Unless there's a criminal investigation going on where you have to hide the information.
Well, and it's funny because
everything
you
else
see
should be public record.
you see some moments where you're like, oh, good, you have faith in state or federal legislators. Some moments like in our state. So this is clearly done back channels from highest levels of state on down, right? There's no name, didn't name anybody, but these are elected officials that are making these decisions.
But I mean, how many of those? Like, so that's what I always wonder. Like, is it an elected official that is actually making this decision?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because like it seemed like like some local officials were like, "What is going on?"
So they're not even talking to the local to say, "Hey, here's
Or
our
is it
plan." They're
like
doing it so
bureaucrats?
back channel that they're like, because we know you're
Exactly.
you're not interested in this because that's your local constituents. They clearly don't have any interest in this, so we're just not even going to include you in this because we know your take.
Yeah.
So we're going to back channel it all, and they would have got us probably as far as they got. At some point, we would have found out, and would it have been so far that
That was
it could
too
be
late.
undone?
I don't
Maybe.
think so. I don't think so because people would have been so
There's-
crazy.
There are moments where you're like, wow, that's allowed. But like it didn't make a ton of headlines, but we have state legislators that are like, no, we're taking money out of these coffers. You're not spending more money to ship illegal immigrants and migrants to other states. We're not using taxpayer dollars to throw them on a plane and send they kind of threw the brakes on that recently. This is the last couple months. Like, we're not going to keep spending money doing that. So there are great decisions that are made that don't get talked about because that's probably something we shouldn't be wasting our taxpayer dollars on. And then there's other ones where you're like, what, but you're doing that. Like, gosh, can we find a middle ground where you guys are just consistently kind of caring about us?
Well,
that's why
now
it should be all public and the people can see and
it's
for the people, by the people.
Be beautiful.
Florida has the strongest. When I was a newspaper reporter, Florida had the strongest public record laws in the United States. Period. Right? We had more access to public records and more rights as citizens to access public records than any other state in the country. Number two was California. Okay, our rights for public documents and public records and not necessarily public hearings, but public records and public documents have been chipped away for the last 15, 20 years. They've been doing more and more stuff. Now, if victims don't want their information put in police reports, they don't have to be anymore. That's not a good thing. People think that it's a good thing, but it's not, because there's a lot of things that could happen. Imagine if you're a victim of a crime. There's no way for any of the media to find out about it, and then the investigatory agencies that are dealing with the crime that you were a victim of weren't doing the right thing in it. It happens all the time, right? But now the media would never know about it because there's no way to contact that victim to find out what their thoughts are of the situation, because their identity's hidden, just like a minor. I don't have a problem with the minors being hidden. That's been part of the public records for a very long time.
Right.
That makes sense, right? They're minors. They don't, they're not adults. They don't have decision-making authority, and the parents should be in control of it and not take advantage of the kids. But adults, it's public record. Police money is being spent for that case. We should know what's going on with that case, and we should know as much of that case as possible. Now, we do have shield laws for minors, for victims of sexual assault, and some other things, and those, I think, are legitimate. But it seems like politicians now just don't like what they're reading in the paper, so the way that they decided to deal with it is not change the way that they do things, they change in the rules. So they're like, we don't want you to know what's going on in our government anymore. It really gets me very upset. I just read that I just talked to one of my friends at one of the local papers. When I was at my local paper, there were 350 reporters covering this whole South Florida area. Now there's 50.
Wow.
Okay. 50 reporters covering this whole area. Same geographic area. How do 50 reporters, and that includes lifestyle and accent, if you will, sports, business, editorial page, and then you have to cover everything else: police, courts, city government, all of that stuff has to be covered.
Investigative
right?
reporting is
There's
our
nothing.
backbone.
There's nothing going on. Do you remember 15 years ago when the county commission of Palm Beach County, basically all of them got thrown in prison?
Yes.
Do you remember that? All of them got thrown in
They used
prison.
to work out, like there was like 3 of them that worked out at the local LA
And they're
Fitness.
all gone.
Yeah, nice. Be like, wait a second, I know, I've seen that guy in the paper.
Mhm. And they were all thrown in prison. And the funny part was they weren't all working together. Each of them had their own illegal activity deals going on, right? Mazzotti, McCarty, Newell, right? There was a
Busa.
couple other ones. These
Busa.
were all the people I remember in the top of my head back then. And why did all that come out? It didn't come out because the politicians were the ones that told about the illegal activity. It was the reporters that ferreted out all the information. How did they get that information? Public records. Now we don't have those public records, or not as much anymore. It's going to get worse and worse. And what I'm thinking is, we've had so few reporters covering South Florida for so long. How much corruption do you think is going? Florida is always number one for corruption anyway, it seems like, right?
It does seem
Now,
that way.
can you imagine that there's nobody checking them out every day? There's nobody going to the city commission meetings.
Less and less
Nobody
threat.
reading the minutes of the agenda.
Yeah.
Nobody going and looking at the police reports. Nobody going and looking at the fire department reports. Nobody going looking at employment records to see if anything hokey pokey is going on there. Nobody talking about budget. Who's out there to actually check budget and make sure that people aren't spending too much money? It's just really, really sad. And Florida was always the best of the best, and it was always great to work here. It's why we created Florida Man. The whole Florida Man concept is only there because Florida has such strong public records laws that we find out almost everything about what happens in police. Right? So that's why Florida Man is Florida Man, is because our records are so public. We find out about a lot of goofy stuff that people do. The goofy stuff is happening in Oklahoma and Nebraska and Iowa and Wyoming and Idaho. It's just that they have way more restrictive record laws that you can't find out what's going on over there. So anyway, that's my thing. James Gaddis, I know we went too long on it, but the guy risked his career. To help everybody, and I felt it was worth.
Last I saw, his GoFundMe was over 100,000. I think it was bordering on like 150. Nice. I think they said he made around 50 a year. Mm-hmm. So, and he's like, "Look, I'm already getting job offers. He's like, if I'm financially good, he's like, I'm gonna donate what's in there. It's and if he does that, great. I personally feel like, dude, take that money. You earned it.
Yeah, you earned it.
Thank you. If you choose to donate, clearly donate it to some of those parks that you care so much about.
And
That'd be
figure out,
fantastic.
what? Take that money and figure out how to do more.
Yeah.
Expose more.
That's it.
Somehow.
Yeah.
Keep it.
Anyway, that's my 2
Keep it transparent.
cents. That's my 2 cents about all this stuff. And like it or don't like it, I experience it every day. I know what it's like. So
Beautiful. 877-927-6969. Toll free to join the program. I guess we got somebody looking to jump in here.
Sure.
I didn't even see.
Dawn checked in, and I didn't want to get too far away from it because she wanted to talk about victims' rights. So, Dawn, welcome to Florida Talk Real Estate.
Hi, guys. How are you?
Hi,
Hey, Don, how are you doing today?
All righty. I kind of wanted to jump in regarding the confidentiality of victims' information not being given to the police and so forth. I'm presuming that you're talking about Marcy's Law. And the clarification, they still have to give the information to the police or the investigators. It's just redacted from the public.
Right.
Meaning, because victims were getting harassed. If they didn't like what the outcome was or what the judge ruled on or what it was being reported at all, they were getting harassed, and they have a right to confidentiality and not be victimized any further.
Well, let me ask you a question on this, okay? So when you're talking, I remember Marcy's Law, but I haven't been a reporter since 2005, okay? So it's been a while. So if you could remind me, is Marcy's Law specifically for certain types of crimes, or is it a blanket? If somebody steals my car, my name isn't in the police report if I don't want it to be.
It's still in the police report. It's just
No, but it's redacted for the public. So if the police if my car's stolen and the police, and I file a report with the police, and the reports, of course, they're going to put all the information in. But when a media person asks for all the car thefts that are in this neighborhood, let's say that you're having a string of car burglaries or car thefts in a neighborhood, and I want to pull the records to do an analysis of that to find out what's going on to help the public know to protect their cars. I'm not going to be able to talk to anybody because all the victims' information is redacted from that, correct?
Their contact information.
Right, so that's a big problem. So that's a big problem. And I know that there has to be, I know you're very passionate about this, okay? Because I know people involved in those groups are very passionate, and there are a lot of good points that you're going to be able to bring up about sometimes victims feeling that they're harassed and that the media like camping out at their front door. I used to be one of those people that used to have to do that once in a while, okay? So I understand that there has to be a balance, but the balance to give all victims, no matter what type of crime it is, the right not to have their information in a public document where taxpayers' money is being used to investigate it. In the long run, that is going to hurt the public. It might help the victim, but it's going to hurt the general public, because when there's any kind of corruption, it's harder to find out what's going on. If there's a string of certain types of crimes that the police don't want in the public because it reflects bad on them at the time, and I've covered stuff like that in the past 20 years as a reporter, we would not find out if we didn't have certain public record laws.
Sure. Whether you're talking about like a big race fight at a school that might not get covered or anything, like if it's going to make things look bad within the community, it's kind of like
and it can be covered up. So I do care about victims very, very much. When I was a reporter and I covered crimes, victims were my number one concern, not the headline, not the police department, not that. It was the victims first. But this has gone too far. I can see having certain crimes being redacted, and it's always worked that way. But for somebody to have a car stolen and then say, I don't want my name in the report, in the long run, that is not good government, because there's no way for a check and balance to happen. It's too much on the government. I don't trust the government. That's my big problem.
Not to that level.
I don't trust the government to that level. And I think the parks just prove that. The parks is a perfect example of that. They specifically didn't want us to know what they were doing until it was too late. And then they got found out. So that's my big issue. Now,
as a human being, you're always going to have, alleged criminals and, victims that were reporting things that are not truly victims. You're always going to have that. And let me get a clarification. The victim's name is public information. You may have to research a little bit further, but it's not available. Their address is not available. Specifically,
It's not public information. It's not public information. If I look at a police report, if I look at a probable cause affidavit, right? If I look at a probable cause affidavit, a PC, and they, from what I understand, because this law was put into effect after I was a reporter, if I'm a victim, I could say I don't want that information in there. Now, it will say something like the 1500 block of Northwest 31st Street. I'm just making it up. But then you got to sit there and try to backtrack and start knocking on all the neighbors' doors to find out who the victim is, right?
Well, their name is available. If that is
How is it available? Because teach me.
Their
Because
address is not. There's been clarification regarding that law over the last couple of years regarding that, and the address may not be available, their date of birth may not be available, but their name is available.
well, that's not good public government, in my opinion. I know that the victims have to be. I know that victims have to be protected, but the reason why they started off with sexual assaults, children, is because the legislators, when they created those laws, were using it because those were special examples of how the law should be bent for those specific people. Now it's everybody. So we just don't know what's going on with our police departments and law enforcement office in the way that we used to know. And I feel like in the long run, and we're Florida, we're the number one corruption area in like the whole United States. We're number one in wire fraud. We're number one in identity fraud. We're number one in
insurance fraud.
Insurance fraud,
Nice.
right? We're number
That was
one in
low-hanging
so
fruit.
many different types of fraud, just that alone. And we were just talking about all these politicians that got thrown in jail 15 years ago, and now nobody knows what's going on with the current politicians. So I understand why people created the law, because they don't work in the field every day and see how it works.
Right.
And all they see is the back end. And I can see if I were a victim and I was part of what's considered locally a high profile crime, and then all of a sudden I've got, Channel 5, Channel 12, Sun Sentinel Post, the radio stations, the radio stations all parked out in my front yard, waiting to talk to me. I know how terrible that is, because I used to be one of those guys that have to do that and didn't like it, right? But it was part of our job. So I get that part. But I don't feel like this is a happy median. I feel like they threw the baby out with the bathwater on that law. It's too restrictive, is my law. And in the long run, it's going to end up affecting us. We will find out eventually some big corruption things that happen in the state of Florida, either locally or statewide, that we didn't know because our public record laws weren't as strong as they used to be. And let me tell you, the victims were very happy with the way the law was changed, but the politicians, I'm sure the politicians that sponsored the bill I don't even know who they were, but I'm sure that they had really strong feelings and really cared about what they were trying to do. But there's a lot of other politicians that were thinking, heck yeah, let's go do that, because they wanted less transparency.
Yeah.
I'm never a vote. It's very hard for me to vote for anything that would be less transparent when it comes to
It is
government.
tough. Yep.
It's hard.
But it's a really weird dichotomy where you're like, I care about these people, but I care about all the
It's kind of the greater good. It's kind of the greater good. It's sad when, and I'm not talking about, like I said, sexual assault children, but it's sad when, to me, when victims feel like they're being harassed, or that all of a sudden that people are driving, reporters and media driving them crazy, and it's just because they were a victim of circumstance and now they're stuck in this. But the greater good, the bigger picture, is making sure that government is functioning correctly. It's almost like saying today, you know what? We don't want the police cameras anymore. It just creates a lot of headaches for us, right? Why do we want a camera up when we're out in the field? Wouldn't it be better that if we didn't have any cameras at all, so that, that we don't have any problems then?
Save you money too, because
Right?
those things
Yeah,
are
save you money.
expensive. And
So I understand where you're coming from. I always care. And thank you. I know that if you're involved in that group, You must be very passionate, and I'm hoping that you guys are doing great things. If you'd like to talk off air about anything we could do to help a charity that you guys are involved in, I would be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, we're assuming
Right? 'Cause,
that you're
yeah,
tied in.
that if you're involved in that. But I like more public transparency than less. I'm sorry, that's just the way I feel.
I'm all for, victims having their, and I've been a victim of a crime, and it wasn't any high profile. It could have been. However, if my information my personal information would have gotten out, I definitely do not think I would be here today to be able to speak on it. And I mean, just being a female and having gone through what I went through, I'm definitely glad no one was interested in the case that I was involved in. But I think that's where we'll have to differ. Unfortunately, laws are made, and they can be changed at any given time. And this one did, get updated and get receive clarification on what can be redacted. And, the laws will never be able to keep up with how smart and strategic criminals can be. And so, I mean, I know we do have one of the strictest public records availability. You literally just have to ask for it, and it's given, except for addresses.
Used to be. Yeah, it used to be.
System, I can't think of everything,
Yeah.
but at least in the court system, you can get most of it. If not, you have to file your appropriate documentation to retrieve it. We just recently have the Epstein tapes that have been public information now. So,
yeah, that's a perfect example, right? How long? Why weren't those records disclosed so long ago, right? And it's because of politicians. It's definitely no. Well, it is. It's more than just being confidential. I mean, that case specifically shows that there were a lot of decisions made behind the scenes that they didn't want the public to know. The law enforcement was fighting amongst themselves about that. The Palm Beach Police Department was so mad at the state attorney's office and other law enforcement agencies during the investigation into Epstein because the town of Palm Beach felt nobody was listening to them and they had a big problem. And we couldn't cover it because we couldn't cover it correctly at the time it was happening because nobody knew because of the public record laws and the politicians, if you will. And when I say politicians, I mean people up in law enforcement too, in certain departments, didn't want people to talk about it and didn't want them to know.
Most of them were elected too, though.
That's right. They were elected. So, but I do totally respect what you do because there has to be somebody out there fighting for the victims' rights. I'm not saying that group, your group, is not important. And I'm glad that you guys are involved because we need checks and balances and we need to hear from all sides in order to make the best decisions possible. So I totally respect what you're doing too.
And very much appreciate your phone call. And thanks for being with us on a Saturday. Always proof that you can dive into a conversation at hand, toll free at 877-927-6969. I apologize. Was it Marcy?
Dawn. Thank you, Dawn. I didn't mention Marcy because I forgot.
Marcy's Law.
Oh. Marcy's Law.
Well, at least there's a good reason to add Marcy.
We didn't have the actual Marcy on.
No, we did not. Dawn, thank you very much for being with us. And thanks for listening on a Saturday. Appreciate you.
Sorry, that's the closest I've ever got to politics in 12 years on this show is talking about public record laws because public record laws really get me upset. It just gets me very upset because I feel like we're going to have big problems.
It's one of those like super blanket type things that I think most people agree, but there's that area where you're like, oh, that crime, I want to protect the victims, I want to protect, but yeah, transparency, I think we're all pretty much down for, unless you're into corruption.
Yeah, what happens is that when the police know that we have to have a check and balance on law enforcement. I like police, okay? I'm not like Annie. I'm not like anti-cop or anything. Defund the police. I'm not believing any of that junk.
Wait a minute. Holding them to a standard doesn't mean you're against them.
Right, exactly.
My grandmother was a chief of police. My grandfather was a sheriff. I was gonna be a cop. I just didn't have it in me. But they should be held to a standard.
I agree.
Yeah, you go to jail for certain things. You don't get passes because you have a badge and a gun.
Well, well, let's keep going because we went way off track. So
Did you guys hear about what's going on in the job market?
Yeah.
No.
Well, actually,
Check this out.
what I'm
Jim's got
trying
some
to.
stuff.
So let's have a vote. I had a whole bunch of stuff I wanted to talk to Ross about insurance, but we got 22 minutes left. So should I hit the job market just really quick and then get into Ross's stuff? Is that okay?
You asking me?
Yeah, I'm asking for a vote. What do you guys think? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, so getting back to the economy and how it might affect interest rates and how it's going to affect buyers and sellers, that's why we're talking about this. The jobs report came out either 1 day or 2 days ago, and it came out light, just like people were expecting, but it came out lighter than people thought. So over this year in 2024, the average jobs created per month have been reported at 242,000 jobs a month. Okay. Now, they already put in there that they're expecting to reconfigure that number at the end of the year, and they expect that 242 average is going to be less.
Well, they should expect that because we do that every year.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
It's something we do every year.
Yes,
Yeah.
and they've already adjusted 819,000 jobs downward for the whole year. They found out 819,000 jobs they thought were created somehow were not created. That's about 0.5%, a little bit less than 0.5% of interest rate of unemployment. So what we were thinking is July's unemployment rate was 4.3%. So if we had an extra 819,000 jobs that were not created,
right,
that's about 0.5% of employment, if you will. So I would expect that they would have adjusted the unemployment rate for July to be 4.8.
So I don't know. I don't.
Why? Why do you think that
Well,
would not be?
just because they didn't create a job doesn't mean that another person's going to get on unemployment.
Yeah. If they thought 800,000 people were employed and they weren't employed, that means 800,000 people were not employed.
Well, no,
And that
it's
would mean
jobs created, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm comparing jobs created and unemployment rate. But I'm kind of doing that because what I'm saying, if the jobs weren't created,
But
that means those people didn't get the jobs.
Unemployment is just people collecting, though, right?
Right,
They don't count you if you're not collecting unemployment.
So the jobs created, though, they said there were 819,000 jobs created that were not created.
Right.
So I'm assuming that if they say 819,000, and this is a question, I'm raising a question, 819,000 jobs created, I would assume that means that they were also filled, not necessarily, but I thought that meant filled. So if those jobs didn't exist, that means they weren't filled.
Right.
That means 800,000 people didn't get jobs that the Fed thought got jobs.
Right.
Right. So to me, that would raise the unemployment by 0.5%.
Well, I don't know if they fill that gap in. I don't know if it's
maybe you're
assumed.
right. Well, they
filled.
didn't because the
So
report and
job creations is an indication of how robust the market is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So employers are creating openings because they need more employers because their business is strong.
Mm-hmm.
So that job creation number, why does it matter? Because it's an indication of how robust the market is,
Mm-hmm.
how much demand is in place for employers in whatever sectors, right? Evidently, what it's showing you is that the demand isn't quite there because those jobs created weren't created. But you didn't see unemployment go up because we don't have more people collecting unemployment. They're running parallel.
I guess that's true, but it gets even crazier because get this, okay? So we know those jobs weren't created, right? And so now the August report, we went from 4.3% unemployment to August to 4.2%. We went down 0.1.
Pretty flat, but
yeah, so we're kind of flat on unemployment. That's actually a good sign overall that a lot of the economists were saying that unemployment rate of 4.2% being flat is a good sign.
It's that flat unemployment that makes me go, why is the Fed doing anything? Like we're good. Leave it be. Let this cook. Let this go.
What they're concerned about is the job creation, because the job creation of this month came out reported to 142,000, which is low for the last
but it was actually
15 months.
89, is that right?
No. I don't think this has been corrected. This is the August report.
Oh, gotcha.
So August is 142. They haven't had time. I'm sure it'll be corrected, but it's not corrected now. So their report came out to 142,000 jobs. What they said is that based on that, we saw a dip in the stock market of about a little over 1% across the board. And the reason, and what the economists were saying, the reason why we lost 1% on the stock market is because they were bummed out that the jobs report was so light. Okay. And that they weren't real happy with the jobs report, and they're afraid that the economy is looking worse than what they think. And to me,
the psyche of the stock market is fragile.
The stock market people are crazy as far as I'm concerned. They live day to day, moment to moment, second to second, and that's their job.
That's it.
But they're also like always losing their religion. I call them chicken littles all the time, because the stock market is not the economy.
Nope.
And all they're trying to do is create churning so that they can have swings, so they can make some money, which is nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what
you
they
have
do
to
for
have
a living.
movement. You do, but you can make money in a sideways moving market too. But they want up and downs. They want that.
And they're very loud about it too. So they squeak really loud when they're not happy about where they see things going, and they think that their loud overtures are going to change what the Fed is going to do and change things. We haven't really ever seen that, but it's just the nature of the beast. But this is what it says in this article, is that it's saying that
I feel like the Fed's focus is going to really start shifting on controlling what the dollar's worth. I know OPEC has a lot to do with that as well, though, but the Fed is teetering where the dollar is in a decent place right now, but it needs propping. And I know, again, OPEC being traded in the U.S. dollar is what makes them so strong.
Yeah,
which is, the deal with the Saudis, we cut spending. Like there's all kinds of conspiracy that's tied in, but you have to churn the money. It has to be created, right? I think the Fed knows they have to do a lot to control the value of the dollar, because that fiat currency's been around for a long time with no backing. We're pretty good at controlling it, thanks to the the big powers that be.
Yeah, and I know that that's been a talk for the presidential election, because some people are leaning towards Bitcoin as becoming the new thing, which I'm not. I don't think that's going to happen. I also don't think it's better. I like the idea that
let's go to something that's definitely not backed by anything.
Yeah, exactly. And they say it's because transparency and lack of fraud. And all I've seen is no transparency and fraud in that.
That's
for sure. Over the years with Sam Bankman-Fried and all the other crazy stuff that happened with all the we're so legit, we're so transparent, everything, and then it's like lose $40 billion, lose $20 billion, poof, gone. Prison.
If you're a criminal, the best way to pay somebody is in Bitcoin. Like that's what you hear is like, anytime
but they trace them all the time. They say it's untraceable, but the feds find these guys all the time. And they find the money a lot of times, not all the time, but they find the money too. So I don't know how untraceable all this stuff is. So I don't even get that part.
I don't understand that.
But I don't know about I understand that there's going to be big issues probably in the next 10 years about what is going to be the standard currency. And my vote is always going to be keep the dollar, because I think it's in our best interest as Americans. But getting back to this jobs report. So this is how it affected Wall Street, but they went down over a point. But here's the interesting part. Some of the people were saying that this light jobs report may convince the Fed to do a half-point cut instead of a point cut. People are talking about that. Now, if the half-point comes, there's a chance, these same economists are saying, is that the interest rates for mortgage rates will go up if they do a half-point cut. But if they do a quarter-point cut, it might just be a drop in the mortgage rates. Now, why would that happen? And the reason why that would happen is if they do a half-point cut and people don't like the reason that they're doing the half-point cut, it may create the banks to think this economy's shaky. We don't want to take a lot of risk. The way you avoid risk is by raising the rates, because you want to make more money on your interest rate if you're in a riskier environment. So there is a small chance that the interest rates could actually go up if the Fed does a half-point drop. So if you see on the 18th big headlines, Fed cuts rate 0.5 point, blah, 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 blah. And you're thinking, and you're sitting on the sidelines thinking this is going to fuel the real estate economy. It might, but it might not. It might actually go the other way. It might be a slap in your face and a shocker.
It could just do nothing to it.
And it could be flat.
Yep.
I don't think it'll be flat, though. I think if they go up 0.5 point, we're going to see movement one way or the other.
Oh, 0.5 point. Yeah, 0.5 point, you'll see some movement. There'll be a reaction for sure.
Yeah, like a reaction. That's what I want to call it. Not up or down, just a reaction.
I think a 0.25 point probably feels like the more likely if it's going to happen, because 0.5 point is an aggressive move. And that would be signaling an aggressive move.
Want to throw one caveat out there about that, though. When I went back and looked at the Fed rate hikes when we were afraid about inflation coming up in 2022, and I was surprised that I saw 4 3/4 point jumps, right? So they've done it in the past. They've done these big movements, right? Now, that was to offset what they were afraid was impending catastrophe, so they had to be dramatic.
Yeah.
I don't think we're in that situation right now, but they have done big moves in the past. So this isn't a timid Fed. If they make a decision, they'll do it.
Big moves, though. They were needed. I don't know if I don't think anybody feels like it's needed at this point. Do you? Have you read any we need at least a 0.5 point cut?
Well, there's 2 reasons why you would need a dramatic cut. Number one would be affordability for housing. Okay, but that isn't the number one priority. You know what I think the number one priority is? And I still haven't read much about this since I read it that last time a couple months ago.
The rates that we pay.
The rates we pay on the $35 trillion of debt we got, we're paying the same high interest rates for that debt as everybody, as all us schmoes are paying for our houses.
Talk about propping up the dollar.
Yeah.
That's how it's done, though.
So maybe they feel that they have to do it to keep their budget under control so they can afford their mortgage payment. Right?
What budget?
Right? They got to be on the budget too. So it'll be very interesting in the 18th. What you have to remember, though, people, most people don't understand this. The Fed rate is not the mortgage rate. The Fed rate is a rate that they set so that banks can lend money to each other. So if Wells Fargo is starting to run out of money and they want to go to JP Morgan Chase to borrow some money to lend, they go, hey, JP, can you lend me $300 million or whatever? And JP says, sure, I'll give you the money. And they don't have to argue about the rates that's set by the Fed. What's the Fed rate today? 5.25%. Okay, that's what you're paying, right? So we're going to see what's going to happen. But what you have to understand is that Fed rate doesn't necessarily trickle down into the mortgages. It can. It does a lot of times. It has a lot. We've seen a lot of correlation, but it's not a direct tie. And really, the 10-year Treasury bill, that's the indicator you want to see for daily fluctuations in the real estate interest rate market, is really going to be on the 10-year Treasury bill. I know we only got a few minutes left, but I really want to slide into a little bit of insurance stuff. Ross, wanted to tell you that I thought there was a kind of interesting, couple interesting things, mostly good news, which is really nice. 6 insurers, including a brand new company, have been approved to take over 195,000 citizens policies. So that's a nice chunk. We're trying to get to, what was it, Ross? We're trying to get to like 700,000 policies. We're a little over 1 million policies. So
so right now, if you have a citizens policy, you could be getting mail. Pay attention to your mail, because you're going to get you're not automatically going to, but you could be somebody who's getting a depopulation letter. And if you just ignore it, you could be paying a much higher premium next year. So pay attention to your letter. And if you have questions, call your agent or call me if you have your letter in front of me. I can explain it to you.
Yes, if you've got a depopulation letter, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to be depopulated. You got to talk to Ross, because you may have options, you may not. And it's on a case-by-case, house-by-house situation. And you got to get the right people to get you the right answers.
I've seen some good depopulations too, where I've seen people where they're being depopulated to a private carrier, and that expected premium is less than what the citizens' expected premium is. So we've seen some decreases going down. But what you want to avoid is when you're not eligible for citizens, and then you've got, or you are still eligible for citizens, and there's other carriers that are within that range, but maybe a little bit more expensive. You want to make sure you don't automatically get moved and you elect to stay with who you want. If you want to move, go. But if Citizens is going to be your best bet and you want to
2
premium
tips. Open your mail,
Gotta
call
open.
Ross.
Got it.
Open mail, call Ross. Don't say, oh, Department of Insurance letter or something, or Citizens Insurance letter, and then throw it on the side with all your junk mail and never open it up.
Don't do
Open the letter, call Ross.
So, and it'll tell you in that Depop letter, it'll show you your estimated premium, right, for your new policy, what they're going to slide you. It'll show you that. And as Ross noted, it may be less than what your current policy is, but you should still call Ross.
Yes, you can call Ross anyway.
FloridaTalkRealestate.com, FloridaTalkRealestate.com. You should, this is probably something you should check every year anyway. I mean, truth be told, it just is. Yeah. It's just worthy. It's going to take very little of your time. It takes more of Ross's time than your time for sure. But the only thing that can happen from this is a benefit, because if it's not going to benefit you, you know what? You're where you're at, and took you about probably 5-10 minutes of your time. Maybe
you can delete my email.
You can hit delete. Yeah. And you're not going to spam them. You're not, it's just, it's kind of set it, forget it. So don't just do that. Set it, forget it, and set a reminder to check on it every year.
They're trying to figure out every which way but loose to reduce insurance rates for homeowners because it is a big crisis. And one of the new things they're doing now, and when I say new, is I'm saying new because it's in the newspaper and I read it. That doesn't mean Ross might go, this has been going on forever,
for years,
but it's new to me. Okay. Now customers have a choice with some companies. Ross, you mentioned it was something Integrity.
American Integrity.
American Integrity Insurance Company is now offering a option to Florida residents where they can get up to a 20% reduction on your premium if you waive the right to sue.
Huh.
Okay, so that's called the binding arbitration endorsement is what it's legally called. That's the clause. So if you have an insurance policy and you agree to binding arbitration endorsement, you might get as much as they're saying they're averaging about 20% savings by doing that.
So that means if you have a problem with a claim, that it gets decided by an arbitrator. That's what you're deciding
instead of attorneys. Yeah.
Have you seen that before, Ross, where people offered that as a discount? Or
yeah. I mean, well,
so
I've seen
new.
it. No, it's not new. I mean, kind of when the litigation was going crazy before they made the changes, American Integrity kind of started doing that, to hopefully not, to try and stay in business too. Hey, here's a discount so we can stay in business.
Well, so they're going to, by anybody that agrees to do that, if you have any problems, you're not spending a bunch of money on hiring lawyers to deal with your end, right? It's all going to an arbitrator. So it's a huge benefit on both sides. If we're dealing with a lot of fraud, I can see that being a great incentive.
I
only
so.
can view
I
this
mean,
as
I
a
think
good
so. I mean,
my question is this.
wrong?
Remember when I had that lawsuit a couple of years ago with my insurance company? And we went through all this stuff and we went to arbitration twice. Ross went to us for the hearing once. Who's ever done that, right? Where the agent came. It was really cool that you came. Thank you, Ross.
So you were suing your company and still went through an arbitrator.
Well, that's what I wanted to get to. So we went through the process first because you just don't want to sue. You want to show that you try to work with them.
Right.
And they wouldn't budge. They would do nothing, right? They were doing nothing for us. And then we went to arbitration. Every time we went to arbitration twice, both times the arbitrator ruled in favor of us. And the insurance company go, we don't care. Every time we went, they just didn't care. It's like, we don't care. We're not doing anything. So then we did sue. We finally sued. We had an attorney through this process, but we didn't file the suit. Then he finally said, it's time to sue. We went and filed the lawsuit. And then like 2 weeks later, we got a notice that we weren't allowed to file the lawsuit, that we had an arbitration only clause in our policy. I didn't get no 20% reduction on that policy, but I didn't get the ability to sue either.
Well, so that's the real pitfall here is if the arbitrator can't, and they have no teeth, they can't enforce anything. They can't make what their ruling be valid. And the insurance company just be like, okay, good for you.
That's what I'm worried about with this. I don't have a problem with arbitration as long as everybody's being fair and listens to the arbitrator. But I don't know if this type of arbitration, if they don't like what they hear, they just go, no, we're not doing that.
What's
like
the
they
point?
did to me.
Right.
And the consumer doesn't get to do that because they're stuck in the arbitration endorsement. So if they don't get the ruling they want, They don't get to say, no, I'm not agreeing to that. I'm going to do something else. They have to eat it. So I think for the 20% savings, I'd probably do it to save 20%. I think I would.
I don't,
but
I think
but it is risky.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think so far. I mean, we've had these policies in place for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had anybody call me and say this went south.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had anybody call me and say anything negative. I got screwed or so.
That's why I'd probably do it.
Could it have been carrier specific?
That's what I was going to say. I think it was my carrier. I'm not saying the whole industry's like this. I'm just talking about my personal little experience there, not that everybody's like that. And that's why I said I'd probably do it anyway. Save 20%. That's a big savings. That's like, for the average person, that's about $100 a month savings. If it's a $6,000 policy, $6,000 a year policy, 20% is $100 a month.
Yeah.
Right. So keep an eye on that. Watch out for that depopulation letter. You have any questions about insurance, you know where to go.
Oh, I do. It's FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. You got to get with our guy, Ross Komarinetz at Brightway Insurance. Juno Beach. Brightway's everywhere. Juno Beach, cut from a different cloth, y'all. That's why it's part of the Florida Talk Real Estate team. You know it. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com. You get a team of pros, experts in their field, like Ross Komarinetz with Brightway Insurance, Juno Beach, like Jimmy D over here, Florida Home Pros team, Keller Williams Innovations, and so much more. We miss Mike Rauch, the mortgage guy from the mortgage firm today, and all the rest of our team members. Is he still sleeping?
Yeah.
We're blessed to have the best of the best. You get them all. You're blessed too. FloridaTalkRealEstate.com on Facebook and YouTube. Know it, use it, love it, share it. I hear our music means we're done. That means Joe and Greek are in the bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
Timothy's going to stick around. They're going to squeeze out a sports show. And of course, we got Gator football a little later too, huh?
Yes, 4:00 pregame, 7:00 kickoff tonight.
Perfect. Fantastic to have you with us every Saturday. I hope you have a good rest of your weekend. Ross, I insist you have a good rest of your weekend.
Fine, I'll do it.
All right, good. No pushback at all on that either. That's beautiful. Look at the power I yield.
Scared if I don't.
We're going to have a good weekend. Damn it.
Jimothy, we'll be listening, man. Thanks for everything always.
Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend, guys.
Thanks,
you, my brother. And Jimmy D, Jim DePola, I hope you have a great weekend. You got 8 houses to go check out.
Scott, get ready. We're going to be ready to rumble. We're going to be driving around today, finding your new home for your family. I'm so excited for you.
I'm excited too. That's really, really cool.
Yeah,
can't
3
wait to hear
years of hard work.
Can't wait to hear the shout out when they finally get keys. It's coming. It'll be here soon. We got locker room coming up next. We'll be back next